Hello and welcome to the DJ Force 10 in Conversation podcast, episode 158. My special guest on today's show is the Real DMT. He recently worked with Rob Swift, who I had on the show a couple of weeks ago, with their EP, The Cure. And yeah, I just wanted to get DMT's side of it, really, and I got it, and how he came to be, who he is today, who he worked with, and all that kind of good stuff. But you'll hear all that in the interview. It was an absolute banging interview. Really enjoyed speaking to him. Really nice guy, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it as well. But go check out that EP called The Cure. It is out on Fat Beats Records, but it's pure hip hop, please, and it's got a fantastic message behind it as well. It really does speak to the now, if you will. And yeah, I absolutely love it. I've been listening to it along with all this music that's been out. It's been absolutely magnificent, and it's made my regular rotation. Really like Rise of the Machines off of it, and Overdose are my sort of favourite tracks on there. But please check out the Rob Swift interview if you haven't already. It's actually got it's got a track on there previewed. I actually played Overdose on there, which was really cool. Actually having music on the podcast, that's only happened once before that, when Rich Collins did a couple of live tracks for us. You want to go back and listen to that. He is of Imagination Movers, for those with kids, former Disney Channel regular, if you will, Disney Junior, and I think it's on Disney Plus now, which is awesome. So get your kids into that if you want your kids into sort of like I call it a children's alternative rock band, and they're fantastic. Anyway, going off the point here, big shout out to everyone again listening during quarantine. Absolutely fantastic, thank you. Looking for getting subscribers on YouTube, so please do that. If you're listening on YouTube, thank you very much. If you're not, don't worry about it. Go subscribe on another platform if you want. But I'm looking to get my YouTube subscriptions up, just purely because I am going to be producing some more visual content, podcast wise, and sort of some other ideas I've got. And I'd like to get that side of things up. We're up to about 72, I think it is, and we're sort of climbing, and it's been great, because when I started doing these podcasts, it was like at 30 something, and I know these are tiny numbers compared to some other 76. I'm just looking now, 76, and I know these numbers are tiny compared to a lot of the other sort of like big channels out there, but I'm really doing this on an organic level. I'm not paying for any kind of like promotions or anything like that, and until maybe if this podcast ever generates money, that's when I'll put money back into it, but right now my sort of day job funds my time and everything like that I do with this. So you've heard all this before. But yeah, big shout out to everyone. Please pass it on as well. You share it with one person, share it with two people, they share it with three people, that kind of domino effect. And yeah, I'm sorry if I feel like I'm slurring my words or like kind of a bit. I literally started back at work today, actually physically at work today, and yeah, it really took it out of me, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm struggling to keep my eyes open. Obviously recording this the night before it's released, and but I'm here. No, I'm alright, man. I'll drink some water, have a bath, I'll be good. But yeah, I've got another DJ special tomorrow, so something to look forward to there. Oh, sorry, on Friday. And then next week, we're going to kind of go back, we're going to strip it back a little bit, and go back to a kind of like weekly, bi-weekly release of the podcast. So ideally, I want to do 2 episodes a week, one DJ related and the other one band related. But obviously, the chips may not fall in that favour with work and people's schedules now, because everyone's kind of like going back to work, if you will, or allowed to go out a bit more. So I'm looking to sort of hopefully keep it regular. I think realistically, probably once every 2 weeks, that'll happen. But I've got a few DJs lined up that I'm really excited about, and hopefully getting some more as time goes on. Also with the bands and stuff as well, they're always around, and I love speaking to all levels of bands, so that is all fantastic. But I am rambling on now about random stuff, and I'm going to give you the Real DMT. Enjoy. I'd like to welcome to my show today, I have the Real DMT. Welcome, sir.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Doing real good, actually. I had this electric skateboard that had broken, and I'd called up this machine shop, Long Island Racing, and they were able to get it all repaired for me, which saves me from having to buy a new one, which I'm pretty happy about.
Nice. That's awesome. Especially in this time, like with obviously a lot of stuff. I don't know what it's like over there at the moment, but a lot of stuff here is sort of reopening slowly. How's the lockdown kind of been for you guys?
Well, it's supposed to be like a lock, there's supposed to be only essential businesses open and stuff, but you see a lot of non-essential businesses open regardless because the people are very conspiratorial over here about it. It can't really be denied. Like, no one's arguing that there's a virus out there killing people. I'm sure people who have personally been in the hospital. Like, everybody knows somebody who has got sick off this, so I don't know why people are walking around with, like, I'll go to Lowe's and I'll be wearing like a full face mask and everything, just because I know there's actual virus out there, regardless of, the why is debatable, the how is debatable, but the virus isn't debatable. So I'll have a face mask on. I'll see like 30 people in the store without face masks. Like, what are you doing? Like, So it's business owners over here. Some of them are, they don't even believe in the virus. So they just keep going business as usual. But a lot of places are closed. Like major chains have to be closed. But like mom and pop shop, a lot of them are open.
Yeah, no, it was kind of almost the same here to a point. It was kind of like it started more of like no one actually knew anyone that's had it and things like that. But as sort of like the time went on and obviously the rate of infection increased and whatnot, and I've known people that have been personally affected by this. And I'm going back to work on Wednesday. But the place where I work is insisting people wear masks before they come in, like desanitize their hands and whatnot. So, they're sort of like putting precautions in place, but I do work for a very large company. So, they're kind of like protecting obviously their staff members, but also the public at the same time.
Yeah. People will say the cloth masks are ineffective, yada, yada. And it's true. If you're in a virus-filled room and you got a cloth mask on, it's probably not going to help you very much. But what I see about it, when you breathe the cloth mask, if you're breathing behind it for long enough, it'll get moist. And the reason why it's getting moist is because it's blocking your moisture, your vapor particles. So if everybody's wearing these masks, then there's exponentially less potentially infectious vapor particles in the air. It's the way that I see it. So if everyone's wearing them, it can help to reduce the chance if that isn't how it's spread, because we don't know. Dr. Fauci, for instance, I don't know. He's the guy who's like on America's Corona Task Force, but I just found out the other day that he donated a lot of money to the same Wuhan lab in China for coronavirus research that was deemed too risky to be done in America. So there's a lot of fishy stuff going on about it,
Yeah, no, there's definitely a whole rabbit hole you can jump down in that sort of style of things, and it's sort of there's like odd things obviously with our sort of like situation here. It was like initially they wanted things to stay open and sort of like build a what they call the herd immunity.
Right. Yes.
But when at that point you kind of like they didn't know what the virus was or how it spread, how severe it can be. And things like that, and it was very like I said, the company I work for shut down first. They were like they took the experience they had from China, and actually shut down their operations a good sort of like 2 weeks before the rest of the country. So I was quite fortunate on that front. But I've been out in this time, and there are people out there without masks on, and it is kind of. I mean, now they've kind of made a lot of stuff mandatory when it comes to public transport and stuff here, because obviously they're opening up the sort of like non-essential businesses. But yeah, no.
The opening, whether I know a lot of the numbers are being exaggerated and stuff like that. There was a report that the CDC over here, the Center for Disease Control, was mixing the numbers for their antigen and antibody tests, which are antigen tests for who the virus is actively active in, and the antibody test for who is immune to the virus.
Yeah. So
they were mixing all those numbers together to boot to like more than triple the numbers of what it looks. So there's a whole numbers game being played right now. So
yeah, no, we have the same thing. because they were like, classing the two tests that people had. They were classing them as individual, like on their numbers as individual tests. So it kind of like it doubled whatever number they had, and they were trying to reach 100,000 a day or whatever it was. And yeah, it's certainly a strange web they're weaving. So we'll see where it goes.
Curtain.
Sorry, say again.
I said a lot of smoke and mirrors being put out by the man behind the curtain.
Yes, exactly that. But
just why we chose The Cure, for the name of our EP.
Yeah,
because not just the cure for COVID, obviously, but for a lot of the status quo, from hip hop to media to social media, just The Cure. Yeah,
no, I mean, exactly. I was just going to bring it onto that. In fact, I was just like a lot of the stuff you talk about in on the record is very kind of like obviously very current events and things like that. But you kind of go along the scope of sort of like mental health and things like that, which I thought was really cool. But also sort of like just generally commenting on the state of things, which again was like this what kind of really drew me to it. Because I do sort of like I sort of jump in and out of hip hop. I'm not a massive, like, I wouldn't say I was like a massive fan. I was when I was younger. I'm a DJ by like what I've been doing since I was 11. So hip hop was obviously infused in a lot of what I did because I was a scratch DJ for the longest time. But I sort of jump in and out, and it kind of got, there was a lot of like a time where it just wasn't speaking to me, if you will. And then I heard your EP actually, and it was probably the first time in about, I want to say 10 years or so, like something actually from that genre spoke to me, because my normal kind of, my normal like musical preference is rock music.
Gotcha.
Going on my like sort of like previous guests to this show, I've had some of the biggest sort of like metal bands, if you will, in the world. But yeah, no, I just wanted to say like it was the first time in like I said, like 10 years that something actually spoke to me from that genre, which I thought was really cool. Thank you, bro. Respect. It's a huge honor to hear that, man. For real. It's all good, man. It's all good. I was just sort of like wanting to sort of find out a bit more about your side of it, because obviously I got Rob's side of it a couple of weeks ago. I interviewed him and his good lady Dilly, and that was sort of like it was mainly around my sort of like DJing side of things, because I've known him since he was. I've known of him since he was X-Men, Executioners, stuff like that back in the day. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of like get your perspective on it, really, because obviously you were the voice on this one. So where did you sort of like draw those influences from? Obviously I know it was sort of like a lot of everyday sort of stuff, but what was your sort of main sort of vibe on it? Well, Rob and I co-produced a lot of the instrumentals for it. He did like all the scratching, you know what I mean? Yeah. And he would also tell like certain songs. He was like, "Yo, sample this," and which one was Ser? I Am, that song. That was total. Rob was like, "This is what we're gonna sample," you know what I mean? And it kind of evolved from there. He had like I would present him with a rudimentary beat, like, "Hey, this is a rough beat. Like, what do you think of the direction we're going?" And he would give a lot of input on it, like, "Oh, like the drums are too, like, let's try something a little bit more, like it's 2/4/4, or And then I would send it to him once it sounded good, like the direction was on, and he'd send me back a version with scratches and like a whole, like, "Hey, this is like the wormhole song was completely like out of my head, for instance. But the Numbers, like the Overdose song, originally I had just called it Numbers because the concept was numbers. Yeah. And Rob has been talking to me about that for over a year now, since I'd say about the time when we switched from the 3 o'clock flow to the 2 o'clock flow. He started bringing up a song, about like numbers, about society's obsession with numbers. So that one's been in the making for a long time. Yeah. And when we co-produced that beat, he said, "DMT, this is the beat for Numbers. This is the beat for Numbers right here." So, and he would, give me some inspiration. You know what I mean? Like, "Oh, like listen to a couple of lines from this song. I see something along the lines of this," and I would take it from there. So it was a lot
back and forth between Rob and I, and a lot of direction from him, to be absolutely honest. You know, he's a guru in the hip hop world. So when he says something,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I was quite fortunate. He's obviously, I listened to the EP before I chatted to him, but he sent me the instrumental version as well, which some of the beats on there I really loved. I've been scratching along to them, to be fair. So I've been using them as practice. But no, I was going to say the production on it was really cool. I mean, so, like I say, you kind of like bounced off Rob with the sort of vibe of things, and he gave his sort of like of the input of being a DJ. You kind of have that kind of like feeling that a beat is hitting right. You know, like kind of like reading the room, if you will. You find that break, and you're like, oh wow, you know, that's it.
He also did a lot of production on it as well. Like I would send him the tracks, and he would send me back like tracks. It would be with scratches. Certain sections would be mute. Like he would take the drums out at certain spots, put them back in. Like for Mood Indigo, for instance, the original version that I sent him had the drums going all the way through the chorus, and he sent me back had a lot of the drums removed to create more of like a blue mood, which I thought was a great. You know, when he does something like that, it's just like, yep, that's how it is.
Yes.
So we co-produced. Yeah, we co-produced those beats together, and it came out really nice. I think. Yeah, I was really. It came out.
No, it is a solid EP. Like I said, it turned my head. It kind of gave me the vibe of. It was kind of like this generation's kind of message, if you will. I think I said I kind of gave it a bit of hype on that front. But it was very much like I say, Overdose. That was something that was obviously the first track I heard. But like you mentioned there, it has a lot of numbers. Like, you know, is that kind of like when's enough? You know, when you've got, you know, exactly 10,000 followers and you want 10,000 more. You know.
Right.
So yeah, no, I was just sort of like, you know, how did you feel writing that?
Well, that song was like, the first two verses came to me really quickly. It was just kind of like stream of thought. The third verse, I'd sent Rob the first two verses. They just flowed right out of me, like I was saying, and I was saying like, oh, I'll get to the third verse in another day or two. And I started writing down for the third verse a whole bunch of statistics. Like I went online and just looked up like how many people die every day, how many people are born every day. I just wanted a whole bunch of numbers for me to play with to kind of put together a big picture. And just kind of zoomed out like, okay, if this is how many people are dying every day and this is how many people are being born every day, then we have this many babies coming into the world. No wonder the internet is always just the idea started forming in my head that the internet completely caters to babies. It's all about clicks. Everything is about clicks, how many views you have. It's how you get paid on YouTube. Everything is about numbers.
Yep.
So everybody knows that a child will generate more clicks than an adult will, because a child, you know, they got their favorite song. They'll click it 100 times in a day. You know, they want to hear that song over and over and over. There's no adult that's going to be clicking a song 100 times in a day who's not like doing it for research purposes or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where that line came from, you know, wonder why the world is dumb, because the world catered to the very, very, very young.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to get, like, you know, some messages out about why the world is the way it is right now. And you see Boss Baby. Everything's about Boss Baby. It's a whole different world. Like, I see the way people raise their kids now. They're afraid to tell their kids no. Like, God forbid a child needs to be disciplined. I'm not talking about, like, hitting the child. I mean, like, discipline kind of way. Like, parents are embarrassed to do it. Like, we don't tell our child no. No is a limiting word, you know. It's a whole different world. Like, it's kind of creating a new kind of like very highly entitled, very highly spoiled generation, in my opinion. But we'll see where it goes, you know. Because at the same time, we have a lot of racial awareness. Yep. We have a lot of, you know, like the Dakota Access Pipeline just got struck down, you know, not too long ago by a federal judge. Like, that's huge, you know. So we have the needle definitely moving in a different direction now. So we'll see. You know, everything's up in the air. Yeah. But
no, I agree with you on the sort of like the sort of parenting side of it, because I'm a parent myself. But I do tell my children no. But they it's kind of like, because we discussed it, my wife and I, of like, you know, when it comes to like, because at the time it was a lot of like you know, it was like limiting words and, you know, sort of like stopping your child's creativity and stuff like that. But we kind of like came to a point where we're like, well, you know, we were told no on certain things, but we still did stuff. But then if it did end up sort of like backfiring, then we'd know why the no was there. Like, whereas if it backfires on you without the no, sometimes you think that's the normal. And you keep doing it. Yeah. So.
Yeah, balance. There has to be boundaries. You know, I mean, like, you know, give the sky's the limit. You know what I mean? Like, I agree with the concept of not limiting a child's growth or imagination or stuff like that. I'm just commenting on like the overall society right now where, you know, it's just completely catering to children, especially the internet.
Yeah.
You know, look at the YouTube videos that have the most views. It's all people being super duper silly, you know, like act, you know, with like little animations and stuff. And I don't know. It's a new kind of marketing machine, almost like people feeding off of the young, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Which is like people have told me so many times, like, dumb your lyrics down, like try some mumble rap. Like this is what sells right now. And my response to all of them is, I don't care. Like I'm not making music because that's what sells. Like I want to be like, I want to have integrity. I want to make something that I want to listen to, you know, something that I'm proud of, that speaks my message, rather than something that I believe will just, you know, generate clicks and make me money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I see firsthand with, like, because my kids have technology to use, and they're on things like TikTok and stuff like that. And I do like when they're on it, you know, when they've got the time on it, they are repeating the same song over and over again. And it's the same. Obviously, that artist is getting the click every time their sort of like 20-second clip is played. And it's like,
which is what I'm thinking now. Like, how can I get that viral 20-second dumb dance that everyone clicks on, you know?
Exactly.
Which is like the wrong way to take, totally I try to stay away from the word wrong, but in my opinion, this is definitely the wrong avenue to approach creativity, you know, is what will generate the most money, or what is trendy right now, because what's trendy right now won't be trendy tomorrow. And, you know, it's got a date on it. Like, might as well make actual art.
Yeah, no, exactly. And when like sort of like trends and stuff come around before, they've lasted a lot longer than they do now. Like you get sort of like a certain, like, you know, a clothing trend, or even like a sort of musical style trend now these days, because that 20-second market is there. Like you say, the next day it's onto the next trend, it's onto the next, you know, but it goes around so quickly. Like now, it's just like, I mean, I'm trying not to speak as an old man, but it's like, hey,
I'm 32, so, you know, we're all
okay. Cool. You're not too far off me then. That's fine. But no, I was just, you know, you're right in that sort of sense, and like when I like listen to the music that you guys put out and stuff, it is like that. I think that's what spoke to me. It was just like all those numbers, because obviously I'm doing this kind of thing, the podcast, if you will, but I'm not doing it for the numbers. I mean, I give the numbers to people that ask for them.
Yeah, you know, like you can't help but count it, obviously, but you know, it's better when they're organic. You know, like people buy views. Like people buy views to generate the false conception that people are clicking on it to create, you know, a snowball effect of getting more views. Because it's crazy, because sometimes that works. Like you see artists who have, you know, like 2 million followers, and they put out something and it gets like, you know, 500 clicks. You know, they bought all their followers. You know, it's I don't know. Yeah, no,
that's definitely true. I mean, I'd like to say with mine, it is purely organic. I haven't paid for any advertising. I haven't really had advertising on the show either. Like, I had a few affiliate sort of schemes, as I did at the start, to kind of try it out, but it always felt so bad. I couldn't do it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so I just do it to support the artists, and I have a day job to pay for everything else. So,
yeah, man, respect. Yeah, I actually have an interview coming up. I'm doing I'm interviewing for electronics repair, because I'm pretty handy with soldering.
Oh, okay,
you know what I mean?
Cool.
A 65-inch TV screen that I fixed by pulling out the heatsink and soldering in some new capacitors. So I saw a little ad and Indeed for electronic repair guy. I was like, it's something I could do that wouldn't, you know, impede with my art too much.
So when it comes to your lyrical style, it was quite unique from what I heard. And I was just sort of curious as to who you look at as your sort of main sort of like muses, if you will.
Well, I grew up in the Napster age, you know what I mean? So I had I would type in hip hop and download the entire list. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, I remember when Napster came out and it just blew everyone's minds. And it's like, who would pay for music? You know, when it's just everyone's getting it for free. And everyone had, you know, you just buy a recordable CD, put 10 billion MP3s on it. So I would, you know, everyone, man. I was listening to Lost Boys. I was listening to Rakim. I was listening to Wu-Tang Clan, Eminem, 50 Cent, you know, Red Meth, everything, like Big Pun. It's, you know, I heard a lyric a while back saying, you know, you can download an entire album for free. You know, wonder where you get your rhyme style. You know, and that kind of resounded with me a little bit, because I was like, oh yeah, you know, well, I have like a million different influences, so I can't really say like, oh, it's mostly, you know, M's like, you know, sprinkle a little Big L on top. What the fuck do you have? He knows all his influences. But mine's like, it's the whole thing. Like when I was like 6, my mom, like everyone's got that thing they click on a million times. My favorite thing when I was younger that I was like, oh, play it again, was a hip hop storybook, audiobook. It was Aesop's Fables. I don't remember the exact name, but like they had a story for a hip hop story for like every single one of Aesop's fables. Like, nice. You know, the epic fish. Once upon a time, a long time ago, out by the sea where the cold winds blow, a fisherman lived with his wife and a cat. They fish you know. So, and I was like, play it again. So I grew up like with that old school, like 80s flow ingrained in me without even realizing it. So when, you know, I picked up a pen one day, I think I was like 11 years old, and I wrote to the you know, hoop, there it is. I was writing that, and that was like the first rhyme that I actually wrote was basically to that rhyme, to that like I guess like demographic, that like syllabic demographic, you know what I mean? And just kind of evolved from there. But I used to like write rhymes in math class, and like regardless what I was doing, you know, what I was supposed to be doing, I'd be writing rhymes, writing them in my head. I had like a notebook with me wherever I went. And most recently, my most recent influence is Beast 1333. I was listening to him so much that I had to stop listening to him because I was worried that I would start sounding like him. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But yeah, big shout out to Beast 1333. If you haven't checked out his music, check him out. He's legit.
Nice.
I've worked for him for years and years, and we finally made a song together called Def Pod, which I'm super proud of. Love that track. So yeah, I mean, like I have a lot of influences. I
was going to ask, what are your sort of like origin story? Obviously, you gave me a little bit there with your influencer side of things, but how did you get involved with or into the sort of like hip hop scene, if you will?
Well, I was always rhyming in high school. Like I went to a very like hip hop. Like everyone in my high school was an MC. Everybody was a rapper. You know what I mean? And they were bad at, like, we would, like, every lunch there would be bad, like, people tapping the pen on the table, you know, to like the what beat was it? Grinding, you know, that, and everyone would just battle freestyle battles all the time, and you know, fights would break. It was like it was pretty intense. Bayshore High School, and how did it begin? I actually got like a little 8-track recorder, and I would call it the studio. And it was like two mixers with like a little EQ wheel, and you could record on. You'd have one tape with the beat and one tape with the lyrics. Then you combine them together, basically. And I would call that the studio. Be like, come to the studio, you know. And like 13 years old, we'd record on that thing, and the quality was awful. And then I had a friend who was in BOCES for recording, Stefan Coldborn, and he and I linked up, and he knew some Pro Tools, and we started learning Pro Tools. He taught me what he knew, and we started expanding from there. I bought like a whole system, and we started making music and stuff. And but you know, right before I bought that system, I had linked up with Ken Wallace from Ian London Productions. He's the guy who made the Ghostbusters soundtrack, and he produced Redman, What the Album.
Yep.
And, linked up with him, recorded a little bit with him, and he had told me when I was like 15, you know what I mean? My grandpa's there, you know, like, he's very talented. He's very talented. He was saying, my grandpa was like, oh, well, why don't you, you know, produce him, or why don't you do that? We thought it was just like, oh, you know, I'd get heard and be, you know, everyone's like, oh, I'll just get signed. It's like everybody's able to just rhyme. The right person will hear it and make $1 million. And that's what everyone thought, which of course isn't the reality. Although hip hop sold that dream to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So he gave me this advice. He said, listen, like in all honesty, if this is what you want to do, you've got to go and immerse yourself in the hood. Like you got to go into the ghetto and just immerse yourself in there, because right now you're very talented. You got a lot of lyrics, but you don't have any street cred. So I was like, oh, that's what I got to do. So, you know, I immersed myself in the hood, and it was like I was recording everyone from Bronx to Wyandanch, and we live in Brightwaters, which has a nickname of Whitewaters. Okay. And the neighbors not much like, you know, there's like some very racial undertones here. So our neighbors did not like seeing, you know, black guys in do-rags in the driveway, you know, or smoking blunts and hanging out, you know, and shooting music videos on my back deck. One day we're shooting a music video on my back deck, and like 5 cops roll up, and I turn my camera on them. And they stopped. They're like, oh, hey, how you doing? No, we're just checking up on things. They said they smelled weed. You know, you never said this. So see you later. And I was like, oh, you want to be in the video? You want to be in the video? and they left, you know. But if I didn't have that camera, I wonder what they would have done. Yeah. You know? The town came eventually, and with an order to shut. They came with a search warrant. They shut down the studio and told me I couldn't rebuild the studio. So I had to like very slowly over the years rebuild it into like a personal studio. I wasn't allowed to like record people professionally. They said we didn't have like a variance permit or whatever. They really went hard at us to shut us down, you know. And I might be getting a little off topic here.
That's all right.
So long story short, you know, I'd been recording everyone for years and years, and I had some run-ins with the police in the recording studio, and so, you know, I found like some weed and stuff in my studio, and so that was a whole thing, you know what I mean? And basically, I used to have a whole group, like it was me and this group LIF, and we had a little falling out back in the day. I'm still friends with a lot of the people in there, but it became just me doing my thing for many years. And then I linked up with this other production team where I came up with like the name and the artwork, and we were green screening stuff. They were using all my equipment for everything, Bigger Bang Media. And they ended up, I was supposed to be, you know, cut in on like as one of the owners, one of the founders of the company, and they ended up offering me like a 360 deal, which was a total insult to me. So I got all my stuff back from them. You know, I was staying up all night doing animations for them, and, you know, just then not work that I ever got paid for or anything like that. So for them to offer me a 360 deal just felt like such a stab in the back. And that's when my friend Kaliko, actually, who I had met through that production team that had tried to offer me the 360 deal, he introduced me to Rob Swift. He came over to he lived in Oregon. He drove out here to New York, which is like 6-day drive, to cut some tracks with me, among other things, but mainly to cut some tracks with me. So we cut a few tracks together, and then he was like, dude, I'm going to go to Queens and meet DJ Rob Swift. I'd like you to come with me tomorrow. And I was like, where are we going? What are we doing? He's like, yeah, we're going to this place in Queens tomorrow. I was like, okay, cool, I'm with it. Then tomorrow comes, you know, and he wakes me up and he's like, all right, yeah, it's like 5 a.m. We got to get there. They're, you know, the line stuff. I was like, wait, we have to get there at what time? What, you're waking me up right now for what? I was like, I don't know about this, man. So he's like, listen, I just drove 6 days out here. I was like, okay, you win. So he dragged me out there. And I had no idea what to expect. We're like the first people in line, waiting in the line. Avatar comes out with his camera phone on a selfie stick with on Periscope, and he's like, "Good morning." He does the whole 2:00 flow thing, you know, the Super Saturday thing. And my Kalika goes, "Yo, my boy, he spits hot fire. He spits rhymes." I'm like, "Oh, come on, man." And so Avatar was like, "All right." And he turned to the camera. He's like, "Go ahead, you know, spit something." And so I kicked. I think I was like, I was like, hit you with a little bit of amount of ability on splitting the syllables and kill it with agility, fictional lyrical flow with the imagery, then put it all together with the flowmatic symmetry. Irregular beat, rhyme, no pause. You hear the flow that gives no to drop jaws. You know, something I wrote a while back. And it's like, what the fuck? He flipped out. And so I ended up rhyming with Rob on the Rob and Avatar on the mic like way later. But interestingly enough, the first day, and they've never done this since, that first day that I came in, I sat down, in walks the beat nuts, right? The beat nuts. Yep. And then in walks MC Supernatural, just randomly, like this had never happened before. And they put on this whole hip hop show. You could see, if you look up MC Supernatural at 3 O'Clock Flow, you'll see me. That was my first day. That was my first time meeting Rob Swift. You'll see me. I'm just sitting there, just mind blown, like, what kind of place is this? You know what I mean? And, came back and Avatar points to the mic and he's like, you want this? I was like, yeah. And we just started from there. It became a thing. Like every Saturday we were coming in, me and Avatar rhyming with Rob. And then it became every other Saturday. And then it became one Saturday a month. You know, but it went on for like 5 years. We were doing the 3 o'clock flow. Well, 3 o'clock flow, 2 o'clock flow. And I wrote something new for it every single time. I would always look for, like, listen to what was going on and write something completely fresh. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you heard, we had that governor out here who painted his face with shoe paste to put on blackface, like at like some party back in the day. You know, like whenever something like that would happen, it's like a dude with shoe paste governor blackface, another bad taste of racism, a nation in bad place, supreme justice raping him, while Kavanaugh crying hold calendar, Rob Swift spinning the beat for me and Avatar. You know, like when that was when Brett Kavanaugh, obviously the Supreme Court rapist, the Supreme Justice who, you know,
yes.
Yeah, well, you get it.
Yeah. No, I lived in the States for a while, so I was kind of like, I saw everything firsthand on that front. I was in... sorry?
I said it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, no, totally. And I was based in Florida for 5 years, and I saw the whole, like, the Trump thing happening from start to finish. Like because I obviously I wasn't a citizen. I'm still not a citizen there, but I couldn't vote. But I actually sat down, and because I didn't have didn't have a horse in the race, if you will.
Right.
As soon as Trump started like going through stuff, I was like, he's going to win, because every time he speaks, he's on the front page. It doesn't matter what that bastard is saying.
Yeah.
It takes away.
That's like they say.
Yeah. And it was just like, it was crazy. And like, obviously with everything else that happened sequentially after that as well. And I'm like watching it from afar as well from here. Obviously we only get portions of the story, if you will, because our media will read it one way. And then you don't have the sort of like variety of news outlets that you would have in the States. You know, we've got our 24-hour news channels, but we don't get the constant local updates, if you will.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's, there's so much there's so much area in the United States. We have so much local news that can pick up so much, like so many scandals were picked up by like Miami Herald, like local papers that then got picked up by major news outlets. When you have less area and it's more constant, like you can have more of a monopoly on the news by things like Daily Mail, I think would be like your Fox News over there, right? Like, yeah. So companies like that can have such a stranglehold on public opinion and just sway the what's going on. Yeah,
no, definitely. I've got a couple of questions left for you, man, if that's all right. I'm going to let you get on with the rest of your day.
Sorry to keep rambling on, man. I know I've gone off on a couple of tangents.
No, don't worry about it. That's what I like about sort of like the podcast format. It's long form. It's very kind of like, I don't. I've got talking points rather than random questions, sort of stuff like that. So it's all good, man. Right, it's all good. But what I want to find out, these are kind of my generic, saying that I've got these generic questions coming up for you now. But what I want to find out are your, the three, if you could specify the 3 albums that really kind of define who you are now. So maybe the one, obviously you've kind of already said the ones that kind of made you want to rhyme, which was the sort like the storybook stuff and things like that.
Right. I was younger, but actual hip hop albums,
or
like,
any album. It doesn't have to be hip hop. If there was any other genre that you kind of like, had a significant effect on you, that's kind of what I want to find out.
Well, I guess my like the albums that really struck me the hardest were when I was youngest, when I was like 12, 13 years old, just CD player playing over and over and over again. Because back then, like before Napster came out, before you could just download anything, you had your CD, you had, and you just listened to it all the time.
Yep.
So my first, the Slim Shady LP.
Nice.
Honestly, when I got my hands on the Slim Shady LP, my whole world changed. I walked around listening to that day in and day, like, hi, my name is, I used to be Eminem's biggest fan when I was younger. Like, I used to just like, oh, if I met Eminem, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, I used to just, I was a huge Eminem fan.
Nice.
Marshall Mathers LP, same thing. Like before that, like before the Slim Shady LP, I actually, like, kind of embarrassed to admit it, but I used to listen to a lot of, Significant Other, like Limp Bizkit, back before it was taboo to listen to Limp Bizkit. Let's see, Redman. I loved Redman. Not even like actual albums. It would have to be, I guess, like from like 12, 13. It would be like Significant Other, Slim Shady, and Marshall Mathers LP. It would be like the three that I got my hands on. I would just listen all the time when I was real young. When I got older, the 36 Chambers. You know what I mean? I was big into Wu-Tang. It's funny because actually when I got older, it wasn't even like the point where you got albums. I was just downloading the entire list, and my albums were like an MP3 CD with like 280 songs. That would just, go down the whole list. But yeah, that's pretty much.
No, that's cool. I mean, I got some love for Limp Bizkit. Don't get me wrong. Because being in the sort of like rock fraternity, and I sort of around that age, I was sort of like late teens, early 20s. So they're sort of like bands that had significant moments, like with me, with their album, with a $3 bill, Your Significant Other, Chocolate, Starfish, stuff like that. And I was actually a scratch DJ in a metal band during that's kind of dope. So, I had that element with me.
Interesting, like audio visuals of what that would sound like. You have to send me something of like what a performance, kind of like a sample of what that would sound like scratching a heavy metal.
Yeah, no, I'll send you something after this. That's all good.
Yeah,
but we've got like, we had 3 albums out. We did quite well. We toured like Europe, UK, so we did all right on that front. But it was, Limp Bizkit. I always loved DJ Lethal, so it was kind of like, any of those bands that had the DJ, like, there were like quite significant ones for me, and there were one of them. Incubus. I'm trying to think of others. Deftones kind of had a DJ. He was there live. Couldn't really hear him on the record, but he was there. But yeah, cool. No, just that whole sort of like new metal, like crossover movement was really big for me, because it kind of took that kind of hip hop element that I loved, but the sort of like rock and metal side of things that I loved.
Yeah.
And it just like
Isn't
threw
it
together.
Interesting how rock and metal took like the DJ element in a bit, and hip hop kind of lost it? You notice how MCs stopped having DJs at one point? Like, it was just like press play, like someone's in the back, they just hit play. Like the DJ is not even a part of the show. Their job is just to like cue up the beat, like any show I went to. I remember I got a free ticket to go to a Lil Wayne show one time at Nassau College, not Nassau, what was it? Jones Beach Amphitheater. And there wasn't even a DJ. Like I was like, or if there was, like we didn't see him, you know what I mean? Yeah. But just, it's interesting because hip hop originated as the DJ, like the MC came later. It was originally like DJ Kool Herc. Well, it wasn't even. It's funny. I learned this from Beast 1333 actually, but it wasn't just DJ Kool Herc who invented hip hop. The idea was actually his sisters. DJ Kool Herc's sister was the one who kept pushing him to make the party, like, loop the break beat like you're doing at the party, like bring your stuff to this party. Well, people are going to love this. And he didn't want to risk his equipment, and she kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And finally he did it, So nobody gives his sister the credit that she deserves. But originally, apparently, I'm not an expert in this, and that's what I heard, but apparently originally, he was reluctant to do it. And she was like, come on,
Yeah.
So
Well, you always have to have that moment, that person behind you that, is the kind of like, they stand outside the spotlight, if you will, but, they're the muse for that situation and stuff, which is really cool. But yeah, no, when I was speaking to Rob as well, like he did a hit, the Executioners collaborated with Linkin Park for a track called It's Going Down. And yeah, check that out. It was one of those moments for me because being a DJ in a metal band was always kind of, like you say, it was kind of taboo. Well, you said Limp Bizkit was taboo, but it was like that element was.
I know what you know.
Yeah, but I was always kind of like, because it was in metal. Metal was always guitars and screaming and whatnot and stuff like that. So the DJ, it wasn't very welcoming for that side of things. So I always had it like that kind of like that impetus to kind of like prove them wrong and stuff like that collaboration. And then a lot of bigger bands came along, Slipknot for instance, they got a DJ,
Right.
And it's sort of like fighting that corner, if you will.
Yeah, and they, really at that point, well, it was like that before, but I feel like people in the mainstream started seeing DJing. Like Rob has a song called "A Scratch is a Musical Note." And that is so apparent when it's used as an instrument like that, you know what I mean? When it's not just like scratching a chorus, but actually a part of the instrumental of the music that's going on.
Yeah, definitely. So my last question for you is, what are your hobbies away from music? So when you're not rhyming, when you're not producing, what do you kind of do to sort of like, either get away from it, or do you have any other sort of like passions?
Yeah, absolutely. I love, like, my girl and I love going to the beach. Like, nice. We're big beach people. And we haven't been able to too much lately because everyone, I don't know why, everyone is on the beach right now and it's just scary. So we're like, let's not get out of the car. Actually, let's go back. Yeah. But I like, we got the ocean like 5 minutes away from me, so I body surf when I can.
Nice.
I like playing video games. I've always played video games. That's always fun. Keeps your mind sharp. Yeah. I smoke trees. I got my electric skateboard. I like to go out and just, zoom around on the electric skateboard. It's like, feels like cheating because it's like the concrete becomes an endless wave on a surfboard and you just go.
Nice.
Back to the Future. That's a lot of fun. But sometimes, my girl and I will just hop in the car and drive by the beach, and just chill.
Yeah. Cool.
Whatever's the deal.
Nice, nice. What games you playing at the moment? Because I'm a big video game person, so.
Oh, right now, I chef too. It's fun. My mom's walking around right now. She's hearing me. So she's like, "You're also a chef." Like, yes, I chef as well. Nice. I was actually eventually at Carnegie Hall. What do you call it? The game I'm playing right now, I just started playing No Man's Sky.
Okay.
Which is crazy. You're running around on different worlds, gathering like copper and sodium and stuff like that. That's nuts. I played Ark for a little while. I had to stop playing Ark. It was too addictive. It was stopping me from making music.
Nice.
No more Ark. What else? I used to play Overwatch back in the day. I just bought Maneater, but I haven't started playing it yet.
Okay.
I'm and I got XCOM 2. Also, that I'm waiting to play. I haven't started playing that, but I like strategy games. So I got a little list of games to go through. I've just downloaded No Man's Sky, so literally it's waiting for me right now. It just appeared on the Game Pass, so I was like, yeah, me too. So you're on Xbox. That's tough.
Well, thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it. It was a great chat with you. I'll let you know when this goes out and stuff and all that kind of good stuff. And thank you very much.
Thank you, bro. Absolutely, man. It was a pleasure.
All right. You have a good rest of your day.
You too, bro. Peace, man.
Thank you. Peace out, man. Have a good one.